Hey viewers, I already know this video is going to be long. I'm getting it started late and my internet has been giving me trouble uploading quickly, so I scripted this. So here we go. My name is Cara, I'm your Tuesday host on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we are talking about gender, Dianic Wicca, and transgendered pagans. The question, as usual, will be in the description of this video, along with a ton of links to other stuff, which I will mention throughout. This week's question was from someone who just came across the practice of Dianic Wicca and its women born women only rule. So they wanted us to talk about that and branching out to the larger community, how we feel about single gender circles and transgender pagans' involvement, etc. Read. So the first thing, I want to mention that I did a couple of videos on LGBTQ pagans on my personal channel over the summer. Those might add a little bit to the periphery of this discussion if you want to check those out. The links will be below. And I was supposed to do a third video in that series about trans pagans, but I didn't feel that I knew enough about it yet, and preparing for this video has helped me learn a little bit more about it, pardon my phone, but I want to learn even more before I add on to that series. As for this week's topic, I looked up several sources for basic information on Dianic Wicca, the links to which will be in the description, as well as a link to a blog post where I'm going to take a look at specific quotes from those sources and talk a little bit more about them. This is a really big topic with a lot of discussion to be had, so feel free to read all of those things first or afterward or add your own. So first, let's talk about Dianic Wicca's stance on this. Dianic Wicca was founded by Z Budapest, but there are other branches of Dianic Wicca that go along with those ideas and still follow Diana, which don't have anything to do with Z's views personally. So Z Budapest's Dianic Wicca allows only women-born women because for her the religion is about mysteries related to having been born and raised a woman, which Dianic Wiccans in her style feel cannot be replicated by hormonal or surgical alteration. So trans women are not included in this because they're not physically female and therefore cannot relate to those specific things that have to do with being born a female. One article from Witchbox says that true hermaphrodites who have been raised as females in our society are an exception to this, and also that women-born women who self-identify as male would exclude themselves from Dianic circles just because they don't consider themselves female. But there are some Dianic groups not affiliated with Z who do allow other genders. The McFarlane Dianic tradition and the Living Temple of Diana, which is not affiliated with the Temple of Diana, they both accept other genders, and of course there are many other types of Wiccan groups that allow other or all genders. Girls, guys, and otherwise. So like I said, look at all the resources for an even more in-depth look at that. But now, in general, answering the actual questions that Runes asked. How do we feel about single gender groups? I think single gender groups can be very helpful at times, whether it's born gender or including transgender. I think people get something out of being in a group of all other women or being in a group of all other men just for a little bit, and that doesn't mean that it always has to be like that, but a mixed gender group might sometimes want to separate into two separate groups and work on specific things with their side of the polarity. The group that I attend now is all women, and we just happen to all be cis female, but I don't know why the group chose to be all female. I have sort of an idea based on what I know about them, but I haven't come right out and asked yet. I haven't been involved very long, so eventually I do want to ask them if that's something that's just because of who's involved, or if it's a fundamental thing and just learn more about it. But there was a Bible study group at my college that would send out mass emails to the entire student body advertising their Bible study, and I got an email one time that had said, you know, this is where the girls' Bible study will be and this is where the boys will be. And so I wrote back and I just said, out of curiosity, why are they separate? And they responded to me, and they said that there is a whole group Bible study too, but occasionally there are separate ones that cover gender-specific topics and things that just really don't involve the other gender, or topics that might make someone uncomfortable talking about it in front of a member of the opposite sex. So that seemed logical to me, to have both entire group and then also split up occasionally. The next part of the question, should these groups include trans people? I think groups should include trans people if they want to. If a group really doesn't want to, I would just advise that that trans person find another group that does want to include them. It would just be a better environment. Sure, it would be nice if everyone included everyone, but until everyone in the world gets on the same page, I think forcing groups who have a problem with it to accept transgendered individuals just won't be the appropriate welcoming environment. So there should just be other, more welcoming options that they can go to. And there are other groups who allow all people regardless of gender identity. The word should is problematic, and I'm really going to be reading my notes. The word should is problematic because what I think is right is different than what other people think is right. Should everyone be included? Yes, ideally, if someone wants to be involved, they should be allowed to. But again, I know that not everyone in the world is on the same page, so telling people what they should do about their personally held beliefs is really hard. On the one hand, I think it's fine to say that people can just go to another group that accepts them, and on the other hand, we want to protest that the problem shouldn't exist because everyone should just accept everyone. But the problem does exist, and the same type of problem exists in many other areas of life, not just gender. We're working towards different groups having more rights across the board, but there are still groups who disagree, and so personally, all I do is stay away from those groups that disagree with what I personally believe is right. It's just a really hard subject, and I know that I'm not providing any solutions here, but really all we can do is learn more about it and discuss it and stand up for what we personally believe and gain more understanding. The questioner also asked if there would be some kind of in-between, like, yes, they should allow transgender people, but not if the group chooses to work Skylad. About that, I think that if a group has chosen to allow transgendered individuals, then they should either, 1, not care what everyone looks like physically, if they practice Skylad because they chose to accept everyone, or 2, choose never to work Skylad in order not to worry about the issue. If you accept the person into your group, then you accept the whole person. Decisions about whether Skylad is appropriate for the group should include the whole group. In other words, I don't think it's right to say, yes, you can be a part of our group, but if we decide to work Skylad this month, then you can't come. No, it's you accepted them, you accepted them. That's just my personal take on the issue, as is everything that I ever say, pretty much. So that's all I have for us this week, and I do plan to look at more resources that I came across that I found today in order to learn more, but I just didn't have time before I had to post this video. So consider this a tip of the iceberg, because it definitely is. This is such a big topic, and some of us are only starting to learn about this issue, while other people might be an expert about it by now. Some of us are more involved in the LGBTQA, B, C, D, E, F, G community than other people are. Some of us know more trans people than others. Some of us are in single gender groups and can speak to that a little bit more. So on and so forth. We all have differing levels of experience with this. And like I said, all we can do is continue to learn more and continue to seek understanding. It's such a big topic, it truly is, and I only hope that this fosters more constructive discussion and learning for everyone involved, myself included. Thank you very much for watching this very long, idea-packed video, and I will see you next week. Until then, blessed be, and goodbye. Dianic Wicca and Wicca in general is also briefly discussed in this book, The Goddess, and the sexuality of different goddesses throughout the world throughout history is also discussed pretty much throughout the whole thing. That's what it's about. The Spiral Dance and Drawing Down the Moon also talk about sexuality and women's roles and things of that nature. I know that Drawing Down the Moon talks a lot about gay groups throughout history and the neo-pagan movement starting out with LGBT type stuff, and the Spiral Dance, if I recall correctly, talks a lot about females' roles. Some more ideas for more of that.